Okay, and yep, we are now live. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Equine Voices. My name is Ronnie, and tonight's interview is with Tracey Cole. So I'll shortly introduce her, and she can tell you all about what she does, her work. So she does NLP and she's hypnosis. She's a coach as well. She does lots of things. But rather than me sit here telling you what she does, I'm going to introduce the lovely lady herself, and she can tell you all about her work, her horses, and her life. Okay, here she comes. Hi, Tracey.
Hi, Ronnie. Thanks for inviting
You're
me.
welcome. So, would you like to explain to everybody that don't know what an NLP is, a little bit of what you do, and then sort of go back in time and just explain how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, sure. So I work mainly with NLP, like you said, which stands for neuro linguistic programming, which is a bit of a mouthful. And basically, it's a branch of psychology, if you like. The people who established NLP cherry-picked a lot of psychology and behavioral sciences and hypnosis, and they brought together the bits that they thought would benefit people. And it wouldn't be an academic thing as such. It would be something very accessible to anyone that wanted to learn about the mind and help the mind to work for them, so that you don't feel that your mind is in charge, but you're in charge of your own mind. Because very often we do think that we're at the mercy of our thoughts or our emotions, and it's actually the opposite way around. We do control our thoughts and emotions ourselves, even though it might not appear to be that way. But NLP helps you, and it trains you to see that you can do that. You can sort of override your natural programming. So I got into it very much from an equestrian standpoint, because I'd been competing very low level stuff. And that was probably part of my problem in a way, that low level competitor, but getting so nervous, it was ridiculous. Absolutely so nervous. And I would be with my friend who was a professional rider, riding for owners, and she'd be cool as a cucumber. She'd be driving the lorry, so she had that to think about. I'm just the passenger, and I'm, melting away into a ball of nerves. And it made no logical sense to me. Why was I the one that was so nervous about riding? I was okay at home, fine at home or on lessons. It was just, I think it was the fear of making a complete fool of myself. That was it. That, which I know a lot of people have. But if you're an amateur, you're a recreational rider, then it doesn't make any sense to put that amount of pressure on you, because you get that pressure from work and other parts of your life. You don't need it in your riding. So I remember the person I was talking about, the professional rider, Aileen, saying to me, well, she said, I feel the same as you, but I call it excitement and you call it nerves. And I never quite believed her. I do now, but I thought, how they're miles apart. Excitement and nervousness are completely different breeds of animal. They're no relation whatsoever. And I could never understand, how on earth can you be excited about this thing where you're performing in front of people and so many things can go wrong with you and the horse. But I was determined to crack it. I was determined to crack my nerves. And I started Googling. And I started Googling rider nerves and confident rider. And when you do that, lots of sites pop up, things about breathing exercises, which I could do in my own lounge. I was perfect in I was jumping like 1.50 meters in my lounge. But when it came to actually go out and do it, it just completely unraveled, and I forgot everything. And and then it became a pressure. Well, I'm not breathing properly. I need to breathe as well as everything else. So I kept Googling and trying to do some research on it. And I kept coming up with this NLP thing that I'd never, ever heard of. And the name, I have to say, the name put me off a little bit, neuro-linguistic programming, because it kind of sounds a bit like a computer.
It's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it?
Yeah. And I thought, do you know what? It just doesn't sound like me. It doesn't sound like something that's like, nice, easy, fun thing to do that I'll just be able to somehow retrain my brain. It just sounds a bit cold, really. It does sound computerish. So I kept ignoring all of these sites that said NLP, because I thought, I don't know what it is, but I don't want to do it. And then I read Pippa Funnell's autobiography. And anyone that's ever read it will know that she talks a lot about overcoming her nerves. And she talks about having NLP sessions. And I thought, oh, wow, gosh, this thing that I've been avoiding, this is apparently what I should be doing. So I started to look into it. And I still was very skeptical about it, because it seemed to promise the world. And I was thinking, I don't think it's going to do that for me. It might just take a bit of the edge off. And I phoned a lady called Christine Dawson, who works in Manchester and runs trainings. And she happened to be an equestrian herself, although she wasn't running trainings for equestrians at the time. And I was chatting to her about these nerves, and she said, come and do a training, come and do a practitioner training. And you'll be able to see that there's lots and lots of different techniques. So if one thing doesn't work, you can do something else. They're dead quick, they're dead easy. And you'll feel far, far different after the course. You'll feel so much more different from where you are now. And you will eventually go out and be fine. And I thought, yes, I'm sure I will. I thought if it could just take the edge off, even just a little bit, I could accept a certain level of, butterflies type of thing. And that's what I thought would be my ultimate aim. And I went and did the training. And when you do the training, you often go off into twos, and one person pretends to be the practitioner and one person pretends to be the client, but you don't role play as such. You think of a real issue or challenge that you've actually got, and the person who's being the practitioner has a go and runs through it with you. And so I did all my riding things, and I kept feeling at the end of the day that something really shifted. But the proof's in the pudding, obviously, what happens when you get on the horse. And I was really kind of testing this out, because I kept thinking, but it can't be that simple. I can't go on a training. It was about 5 or 6 days long. I can't just do that and then go out and ride and feel differently, even just a little bit less nervous, never mind full confidence. But I did. And me, as the ultimate skeptic, was saying to myself, well, it's because I did the training, this week, or I did the training today. It sort of like carried me through. You get these kind of buzzes, don't you, when you do a training that you've really enjoyed, and you're almost evangelical about it. And I was a bit like that. And I kept thinking, but yeah, when normality hits and I'm back at work and I've got my normal day-to-day running, I thought, any minute now, it's just going to flip. I'm going to lose this confidence. It's not going to be something that's permanent. But I really didn't. I mean, you shouldn't do this. You shouldn't try and get your fears and nerves back. But I really did try. I really kind of tested it out. And it was during the training that I thought, do you know what? If this does work on somebody like me, I thought I had a really, really stubborn mind. If it really works on me, it might be something that I could do maybe as a sideline. I could do evenings and weekends. I wasn't really thinking about a full business, just something interesting. So that's what I did initially. I did weekends and the odd evening, and I helped riders very much around where I lived. I did the whole leaflets in the tack shops and the equestrian centres, because really I didn't think about doing much on social media, and I didn't think about things like Skype or anything digital. So it was very much people who were where I live in North Staffordshire, and it started to gain a bit of interest, and I gave a few workshops and things like that, and I thought, I really love this. I really like working with the equestrians. I really get what they feel when they say they're nervous, whatever reason it is, whether it's cantering or hacking or whatever. It could be really high level stuff. I really understand, and I understand that absolute block that you have when you are nervous. And I understand that frustration, because you want to kick yourself because you can do better. It's just it's like just the shutters come down and the nerves start. So eventually I decided, well, I think I'll go part-time in my job and do this part-time, and then it expanded again, and I left my job, and now I do this full-time. So it's been a journey over several years, but I really do love it. I love what I do now.
You have such a nice, calm. I mean, your whole demeanour when I'm looking at you as you're speaking, and I've spoken to you, and we've had little chats in the past, maybe sort of online, and you always have this nice demeanour about you, and a nice calming way about you, and how you speak. It's very calming, which is lovely. And I'm sure that's a bonus when you're doing your work. But I didn't realise that you'd gone straight into practitioner. So that's how you went straight into practitioner, rather than just having some sessions. It was part of the practitioner's course. So that's a big achievement, a really big achievement.
Well, it is and it isn't, because it is pure ignorance. That was. I didn't know that there were people who did NLP coaching sessions. And when I rang Christine up in Manchester, I had no idea that I could have gone for coaching. But this course sounded really good, and I thought, well, why not? But with no idea about what I was going to do with the knowledge apart from apply it to myself. That was all I really wanted.
So how long was the actual course? How many? Was it a weekly thing? How long was it?
So
the initial one.
Yeah, it's not run exactly the same anymore. The NLP sort of changed its training system, but I think it was about 5 or 6 days that we did, all in one go, all in 1 week. But yeah, and that was good, because you sort of gained momentum as you went through it, because every day you'd learn something, and then everyone was going home and testing it out on people at home. So then in the morning, everybody's coming back saying, I did this with my husband and I did this with my son. And it was really nice. It was really nice to see that, we were all very excited about what we were doing.
I like the way you described it. You said it, you felt very angelic, not angelic. Yeah, angelic. Is that what you said? Angelic? When you were saying, you're so excited about something.
Oh, evangelical.
Evangelical. What did
yeah.
See, my head know what I meant to say. It came out different, and I thought that's such a good way of explaining. Because when something happens and you sort of get something, or you you change. It's so exciting because, and you want to tell the whole world, and you can explain how it is, but they don't always appreciate it or experience it from your point of view, because it's your point of view and it's how it makes a difference to you. So for people that ride horses, I know it's not just about horses, it's used for lots of things. Nerves come into it big time, and like you said, it's not always common sense. I mean, if somebody's had a fall or something's happened and then they've got that on top of it, then yeah, but sometimes it comes from no explanation. I mean, most horse people have a fall at some point and they get back on, but it can be to do with other things. My experience of NLP and some other modules that a friend of mine used, she used me as a guinea pig, and I had a block just getting on my horse, and my legs would be like jelly. All the energy would just drain, and it was just horrible. And doesn't matter what I did, I could not move this block. And I had people come out to help me get on my horse, which was great. And I got on her because I needed to get a saddle. So I had to get on her. But I knew that this block was still there. And I've mentioned this in previous podcasts. So I'm just going to say it, sort of skim over the story. But basically, I knew it wasn't to do with horses. It was something stopping me moving forward, but also through past experiences and to do with protection and my mum and things like that. And yeah, we got past this block, and I remember going out to the field thinking I should be feeling nervous. And in my head, I was thinking, no, I am nervous, but my legs are okay. And when I got onto, it's like, I've done it. And it was just sitting on her. But it was funny because I thought that I should not be feeling this way because it's been there for so long. And it's not come back. So that's dealt with. So it doesn't mean other things won't be present if I don't deal with things. But that part, and it wasn't to do with horse riding, it was to do with something else. That block moved, which actually helped me move forward in my personal life. So for me, the block was related to, I thought it was related to horses. Deep down, I knew it wasn't, but it helped me move in lots of areas of my life, which is fascinating. And I find that fascinating, how your mind works and how you, like I have conversations with myself. And if I can feel anxiety or if I can feel something, an old pattern coming up, I'll say, okay, what's that telling me? What is it? And like the other day, I was absolutely fine. I had a really good few days, and I was out in the field, and I was doing some poo picking. It was dark, so I got my head torch on, and Toots came to have a tea, and then she walked off, and because of her herd moving away, she's been a little bit distant, and she walked off, and I goes, bye Toots, thank you. And then all of a sudden I could feel this lump coming up in my throat and my stomach, and I thought, whoa, something's coming up. And I literally just bent over the wheelbarrow, and I was trying to stop this lump because I knew it needed to come out. And anyway, it did. And I started crying, and I was thinking, okay, what's that? What is she reflecting in me? What was she showing me? So she's been a horse and she's doing what she needs to do for whatever reason, but it still has an impact and a reflection and something for you to look at within yourself. And the first word that came up was abandoned. And that sounds very, oh my goodness, but we've all had, times in our life when something's happened and we feel lost, abandoned, or whatever. And it was the word abandon. And I thought she's rejection. And I thought, I know what that is. And as soon as I acknowledged, I know what that is, that lump went in my throat. And I thought, okay. And I felt fine. But obviously, when you let a lid off something, that's good, but other things start to come up.
Yeah.
And as I walked up the field, there was emotions coming up, but it was okay, because I knew it needed to come up, whatever this was. And then the next day I was fine. But I when you're in that moment, those few seconds, it's as raw and as real and as painful as you remember, sort of, but you know it's not real, it's not now, and it's not happening. What it is residue. And that's how I explain it to myself, that you're working with. And this is what it's meant to do. Because when we hold things in and we bury things, that's when you get problems later on, which is the fear of getting on toots. It manifested into that from other stuff.
Yeah. That, I mean, that's exactly my thinking as well, that if you don't deal with those things there and then, if you're not aware of how to deal with those feelings, if you just package it away and try and say, I'll put that to the back of my mind, even if it's very visceral, and you think, I'm just ignore it, I'll think of something else. Like you say, it doesn't go away, and it will continue to come out in whatever way it wants to do, whatever way is going to grab your attention most. And I think for the equestrians, a lot of the time, exactly what you said, it comes out in your riding, but it isn't, the root of it isn't riding or horses at all. It's often completely different. And I find that with my clients as well. You know, this is a very important part of an equestrian's life, and the horses are everything. And very often the horses are where you go to, you know, for your leisure time, for your relaxation, for your therapy. But that's almost like, I mean, I'm sure you recognize these in your own clients, that's where it comes out, isn't it? That's where the negative emotion, the fear, the anger, the frustration, whatever it is, that's where it tends to manifest. And so then people contact me saying, well, you know, I've got this fear now of cantering or jumping or whatever it is. But sometimes it really is that's what it is. And sometimes it's completely disconnected, and it's about finding out what that root cause really is. And exactly what you do, I would help the client to try and find out what the mind is trying to tell them, that could be a piece of advice that was out of their awareness, that they missed maybe when the original event happened, or, you know, something, a life lesson. It could be as profound as that. And once they get that thing, just like you said, then the emotion goes and it disappears. And very often then that's when they can handle their riding. So although we do different modalities, there's a lot of crossover, isn't there?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And like you said, because you've experienced it from the other side, you have that affinity with your clients, so you can come at it with that understanding and knowledge, and say to them, I know how you feel, and I know how it can affect you, big time. And sometimes there's no explanation that you can think of, but there's always a way of getting to it, or trying to sort something. Yeah, I find it fascinating. I really do. And I forgot what I was going to say. Then I was going to say something. You carry on talking. I was just thinking,
okay.
I was going to ask you a question, and it's gone because I was talking about something else. So why don't you give us an example of so what happens if somebody's watching this, or they watch this later and listen to the podcast, and they're thinking, okay, I could do with some help. What should they be looking for? So if they don't know anybody in their area, what sort of thing do you sort of say, advise them to look for?
Okay, so it depends whether the person wants to see somebody face to face, or they don't mind doing a Zoom session, because most NLP practitioners, master practitioners, will do Zoom sessions now, just because lockdown made us all go onto Zoom. So everybody's on Zoom at the moment. But if you were looking for a practitioner or master practitioner, I would look for somebody who is an equestrian or has been an equestrian and really understands equestrianism. It makes such a difference. If you go to a practitioner, master practitioner who doesn't get horses, then you spend a lot of time explaining, and you don't want your session to be lots of explaining. So I would definitely go with somebody that understands horses and riders, and because otherwise I know people who've been to practitioners who don't know about horses. They might know about other sports, but they're sort of like coming at it, well, why do you persist in riding if it's making you feel bad? I mean, it's a logical question, isn't it? If you feel so bad and it's not your profession, it's not something that you using to pay the bills, it's the opposite, isn't it? It's creating more bills, and it's making you feel bad. Why bother? Why ride? So I think an equestrian person is the one to look for. I would look for someone with an accredited certification. So go on their website and have a little look around, or contact them and just say, where's your qualification from? Because unfortunately, the industry isn't regulated in any way. It's all self-regulated. So anybody could call themselves an NLP practitioner, whether they've done a training or not. Anyone can call themselves a mindset coach, whether they've got something to back that up or they've got personal experience. So I would really make sure that the person that you're looking at has got a qualification that comes from an accredited board of NLP or board of hypnosis or whatever it is. And then what I would do is I would book, most practitioners have some kind of discovery call or strategy call, whatever they call it. And it's usually free, and it's 15 or 20 minutes. And I would book one of those calls in with the view that you're not necessarily going to buy from this person, but you're going to find out if you're a good fit. And you just feel that this person knows what they're talking about. They can outline for you a bit of a strategy for you that's very personalized. You don't feel like you're just going through the same old motions that every client gets. And that you get a good feeling about this person, that you're at ease with them. There's a lot of clients don't really know what NLP is, or they don't know what hypnosis is. So they've booked on because, for me, I'm their last chance saloon. They've tried everything else. And so they haven't necessarily done a lot of research into what goes on in an NLP session or a hypnosis session. They're just like, wave that magic wand, please. And so they can be quite nervous. So I would say to people, if you don't want to do the research, if you're stuck for time, or you feel like, well, a friend of mine had this wonderful NLP session, I just want some of that. Make sure you have some kind of connection with that person when you're on the call, and you feel as though that person's really got your back, and they're really interested in you, and they really want to help you. But more than that, they can tell you the steps they're going to take to help you, and it makes sense for you. It doesn't sound too woolly, or that they plucked it out of thin air, or it's very generic. Well, we do this, and this for everybody. That it's more personalized.
Because it can be quite scary because obviously if you're going to talk to somebody and it's to do with things that are in your mind, or your deepest fears, or things that you maybe don't want to talk about to a stranger, but you want some help, it's quite a big step to take to talk to somebody. I'm at the stage where I've got good friends, and one of them happens to do NLP and quite a few and a few other things. So I was fine talking about anything. Nothing was off the table. It was fine, because I knew if it was meant to come up, it would come up, and things that don't need to come up or don't need to be delved into on that level, they wouldn't be. My being, soul, whatever, knew what I needed to do. And it was quite funny, because sometimes she'd start to ask questions and I could feel my body getting uncomfortable, and so I'd say, I know the answer to that now, because it's shifting, it's not happy, so you're getting to a spot where we need to be working. So it was lovely, because we could sort of be open with each other. But I knew her, I knew my friend Amanda, but for somebody that doesn't know, and it's a little bit similar. When I go see a client, the first thing I say to them is I put them at ease, and I'll say, I don't read minds. I don't know your darkest secrets, and if I did, I wouldn't say it. It's not about that. I just get enough information to help you or your horse, and to get you to, to sort of see that, or to know we're going in the right direction. That's all I get. I don't need to have the whole story. Of the depth of it. I just, that's what happens. So when somebody is that raw, there is that worry that, what if I say something and I embarrass myself, or I'm ashamed of it? It's really about, like you said, having that nice connection with somebody, because that person you're going to trust. Now, I know everything's confidential, but it doesn't mean to say that person might be ashamed or scared or embarrassed to say something. And they shouldn't do, obviously, because we've all done things and all things happen in life. But it is that step, isn't it? And your head sometimes gets in the way, which is ironic, because that's what you're trying to sort.
Yeah. And that's exactly why I would say book a strategy call or discovery, whatever the person calls it, the free complimentary call, and you'll get a good feel for that person and whether you will be able to share things and whether you do feel at ease. Because as you say, it's not that it's a bad thing necessarily, but if you're very nervous or you're a little bit closed off because you're not sure how much to share and you're not sure, whether you can ask questions during the session, or, you feel a bit silly asking about, well, why does this work and how does it work? If you've got all of those things and you're working on your mind as well, you've kind of got a bit of an uphill battle, haven't you? But if you feel at ease with the person and you almost feel like you know them, even though you don't know them, and you think, well, this is a safe space and highly confidential, as you say, but I feel like I can offload a little bit. And if something comes up, or I have a question, or something isn't working, or I can't do something, a lot of NLP is about visualizing things in your mind. Well, if you're a visual person, that is the easiest thing in the world. I mean, I'm not a visual person, but I know that visual clients, some of them say, well, it's just like seeing it in real life. Now, if I visualize something, it's kind of a bit grey blobs, and it's rubbish. It looks nothing like the real world. So if you let's say you did have a client who said, I can't visualize that, I can't see it, then they need to be able to say that, I've got no picture, I can't see very much, and it's grey and it's blurry. And depending on what the practitioner's doing, that might be fine. That might be the level that you need. But if they're doing something that is highly visual, it's nice to be able to say, I just cannot do that my brain just won't let me do it. And then the practitioner can say, well, that's fine. We'll do something else that doesn't involve you having that sharp definition. But if you're, like you say, if you're feeling a little bit nervous and you're not sure if you're doing it right, and you don't feel like you can really say, I can't do it, then the technique won't work as well. You won't get your money's worth, and you may or may not get rid of your nerves or doubts or whatever you're trying to alleviate. So that connection is really, really super important, I think. I think in my line of work and in your line of work as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
That people
definitely.
just feel that they can just relax, and they feel like they've known you for years. You know, within 5 minutes, they're like, they're off, they're okay with you. That
Yeah.
they might have had a bit of nerves before they pressed, you know, to get onto the call on Zoom or lift the phone or whatever it is. But then as soon as the session starts, they're like, oh, this is okay. I can do all of this. This is easy.
Yeah, and it's about trusting them themselves, that they feel the connection, and that they're okay with that, and trusting the person that's in front of them, or chatting to them. And that's the main. I think that's one of the main important things, isn't it, to put somebody at ease, so they can open up. Because, like you said, so the work isn't about somebody coming to you and you fixing everything. They have to participate. And that's the same for my clients. You know, I relay any information that comes, and some of it's from the animals, some of it's what I'm picking up intuitively. It's, you know, it doesn't just come from one source. It comes from all different angles, and sometimes it comes all at once, and I have to decipher it. And as I'm explaining one part, I've also got to sort of just put that on the hold, and so I can get that bit out for the next bit to flow through. And you're also you're chatting with the client, and you're communicating with the horse, and you're observing the horse, and you're also picking up on energetically what the horse is saying to you. So it's so there is a lot of crossovers, because you'll be doing that with your clients, and they'll be doing it with you, even if they're not aware of it. But it is very much them working with themselves. And that's what my clients do. They come to me sometimes, like you said, it's a last chance corral, or sometimes they just want to know that the horses are okay. You know, they're fine, that they don't need anything. Sometimes it's because it's that time of life, and it's time to say goodbye, and that's just as precious as the other visits, for different reasons. But it's not like I go along and the owner's not even aware that's going to happen. They just need to know that they're doing the right thing. So most of it is confirming, or sort of highlighting, but also empowering them to say, you did know this, you did see this, because that's why you've got me out, but you wasn't quite sure why. And it's given them the tools to feel and sense and work with what they have. And hopefully, I mean, I hope on my heart that when I go away, that's what I give my clients, and peace of mind. And sometimes they'll say afterwards, you know, I'll contact them and say, especially if it's quite a big session and there's lots of things that's passed, I'll say, are you okay? And they'll go, yeah, you know, that's fine. And the horses the next day was different, and they tell me what they've done. So it's lovely. But you must have a similar thing, that they go away and think, oh, thank goodness, I am normal.
Yeah. It is so similar what we do. It's lovely having a talk to you about it all, because as you're talking, I'm thinking, oh yeah, well that's kind of like what I do. So from my point of view with the mindset, the theory is that we all have all the answers, and it's the mindset coach, however they run their session, it's their job to try and unlock that. But you as the client have the answers already. You might not realize it, you might not be able to tap into it, but it's your own mind that solves the problem. It's not the mindset coach. There might be suggestions along the way, but those suggestions could be rejected, they could be accepted, but it's very much that the practitioner, the coach, is the person who's the guide, and they're sort of guiding you to the answers that you already have for yourself. So as you were saying that, I was thinking, oh yeah, that's exactly what I do.
So you're empowering your clients to help themselves as well. So they go away knowing that they've got some tools to progress and change things. And if something comes up again, they can maybe deal with it in a different way. But if not, and they need extra guidance, they'll go back to you and just say what's happened, what's happened next, or so you're also a coach. So you don't just do clients. You do is that right? You do coaching.
Yeah. So
for practitioners, for future practitioners, is that correct?
Yeah, I do. So I help clients as equestrians in a one-to-one session, but I train people to be coaches as well. So I run NLP trainings and hypnosis trainings, and the other one that I do is timeline therapy, which nobody's ever heard of. But it's oh, you've heard of it? Okay, you're the exception to that rule then. That's super for emotional problems, limiting beliefs, traumas, accidents. So it's a bit deeper than NLP. It's sort of a side branch of NLP. But I train people in those so they can go off and be coaches, whether they want to be I'm going to say simply, but they want to be mindset coaches, or they might already have a business. They might already run a horsey business. So very often people are riding instructors and trainers, or they may be physios. So they've got some connection in their work to the horses, and they want to add this on because the people that they see, either they're teaching or they're doing a lot of physio sessions, people say, well, I want to be able to help these people further because I realize it's a question of mindset. I can see that they've got everything that they need. They just need a bit of help with how they're thinking. So that's really nice to train those people as well, because they're very much taking NLP and applying it to their own business.
Which is brilliant. I was just sat here thinking that, I mean, the mind is an amazing piece of machinery. It's amazing. It's amazing because it's so some of the fear, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong. This is from my own viewpoint, is a survival thing. So it's some of it can start off as a survival, and it can be basic because it's there to help you. But then what happens sometimes is you get trapped in that mode, and it's hard to get back out of it. So it's almost like I explain it sometimes, because this is the way it crosses over to clients, that when something happens, it's got stuck in this position, and it doesn't know how to reset itself. And actually, this is coming through now. I'm somebody's talking to me, actually. Thank you, whoever that is. And reset itself. And that's, so even though rationally we might know that we know what to do and we shouldn't be doing this, it can't do anything about it, because it's almost like this is probably not correct in your term, but this is how I'm explaining it, that it can't, because there's a gap missing, there's something missing to enable that process. You put it in your language because you're the expert.
Well, I think you're right. I think it is fear. Well, fear is a funny thing, because fear is often thought of as a secondary response, which when you're in fear or incredibly nervous, it doesn't feel like it. It doesn't feel like necessarily that something sparked it. Simply riding or getting on the horse is sparking it, but very often it's come off the back of fight or flight or freeze. And those are the initial reactions and responses. And those are the helpful, real survival responses. Those are going to help you. But the fear is often secondary to those. They might feel instantaneous and simultaneous, but that's coming second. And so some people would say that fear, although it feels, I mean, it's horrible to feel it, and it, you know, once you're in it, like you said, it is very difficult to get out of. But it doesn't serve a purpose, especially in modern day. Obviously, a certain level of being sensible, especially as we are in a hazardous sport. But as long as you have taken into consideration all the usual risks, and you have tried as much as you can to circumvent everything, then there's no reason for that really, really high level of fear. And it does become a habit, like you say. It becomes, okay, this is how we ride. We get on, and then we have the butterflies, and then we freeze, and then get the mind fog, and all the rest of it that follows. And that becomes your pattern. And your mind, unless you tell it to stop, will keep doing that, because the mind is so quick at making associations. Even our slow minds. I mean, we know horses make associations really lightning fast. If you've ever gone past a wheelie bin once with a horse and the horse didn't like it, it will remember that spot where the wheelie bin used to be. But our minds do the same thing. And so our responses become lightning fast as well. And it is just a patterning that needs breaking. And if you're not sure how to break it, it will just continue. And this is where I was when I was doing those competitions, that I was trying everything, but nothing ever really stopped it, because it was so powerful. So I needed to use something a bit stronger than, like, the breathing techniques or the bits and pieces of visualization that I was having a go at. I needed something that got in there and stopped that pattern, so that there was a new pattern. And that's sort of what I was talking about when I said, what I didn't realize, and what a lot of people don't realize, is that you're in control of all of this. It's not your mind that's in control, it's you that's in control of it. And you can override any of these patterns, so long as you have the tools and you know what to do. You can get rid of these things.
And you can have fun with, when I say fun, it depends where you're coming from, but you can have fun for it, because once you've been shown and guided and how effective it is, you can recognize when triggers and things pop up, that you can sort of, so you don't always have to know exactly what to do, but if you recognize things, you can see the difference that when just recognizing that emotion, and that it's attached to something else, not now. It's just a trigger that's happened, that's brought it forward now, and you see it subside. That's an amazing, oh crikey. So once you get to know that about yourself, as you said, even if you can't get past something, there's a way. It's not something you have to stay in. It's not a place that you have to be in forever. That holds you back, that keeps you in that place that you don't want to be. And but it's finding the right person, the right tools, which is somebody like yourself, Tracey. So why don't you share about your horses? Tell us about your beautiful horses.
Oh, okay, yeah. I've got two mares. I've got Lottie, who's a chestnut mare, a typical chestnut mare. She has very strong opinions. She's a warm blood. She's 16.2, so she has the bulk to go behind those opinions as well. And I love Lottie to death. She's absolutely fabulous. And I bought her as a 6-year-old, and when she was, how old would she have been? Not that much older, maybe 9 or 10, she started to go lame. And then, I mean, after rounds and rounds and rounds of different vets and physios and all kinds of people and experts trying to help me out, still really didn't get to the bottom of the lameness, because it was sometimes thought to be in joints, other times thought to be in the foot and the hoof and the, you name it. I think we've been through more or less every structure, soft tissue, hard tissue, you name it. And so I didn't really ride her very much during that period. She's just starting to show soundness that's actually got some longevity. So just after we spoke, Ronnie, I don't know what's the change. I couldn't tell you, but we seem to have got through the lameness. So I've just been walking her around in hand and doing a bit in the school and groundwork. So I keep thinking about getting on her, and then I keep looking at the weather. I keep putting it off. But I will when I get a bit more time over Christmas. Then I think definitely time to get back on. So she's my older mare. She's 17 now. And then my younger mare is Darcy. She's 5 at the moment, and she's quite hilarious and complete opposite to Lottie. She's only 15 hands, so she's a little one. She's quite fine build. So they look like Laurel and Hardy, you know. They really are very, very different, and they're different personalities. Darcy is a proper princess. I mean, she does not like mud, which unfortunately, I'm afraid, where I live, you've got to like mud or just lump it. You've got to have mud. But she is so funny. She's fantastic. So having lots of lessons on her. So bringing her on. But she's really good. She is really, really good. She's got a very quick mind. So, you know, if you want to do nice circles for a session, you know, you're just having a little pootle around the school, don't do lots and lots of circles, because she'll work it out, and then she'll work out how not to do a circle just for her own entertainment, really. But she's fabulous, and she's the one with the old head. She's the sensible one. She's the one that, you know, would never think about like when they come in with the 5 horses where I am, and they're all in the field together, and we bring them in at night, and every other horse wants to come in first apart from Darcy, and Darcy just hangs back and says, well, come on, we're all getting there eventually, aren't we? So, you know, I'll just hang back, so and you lot can all scuffle about and, you know, have a bit of a bargee and all that. But yeah,
so she's got a wise head on her shoulders.
Yeah, she's fabulous. She's fabulous. And
what is it?
Sorry.
What is it that you so have you got any plans with Darcy? Is there something particular that you're wanting to do with her?
I'd love to do some jumping with her. So her dad was an eventer, so I'm hoping that she's picked up a bit of jumping genes. I haven't done any with her yet. We're still doing lots of flat work and just getting her more balanced, and she's quite one-sided, so just trying to get her so that she is a little bit more balanced on both sides, and her muscles are attuned both sides. So at the moment we're just having lots of fun. We go out for hacks, and we do stuff in the school. But yeah, if hopefully next year we'll get her jumping, and that'll be a lot of fun, I think.
Well, because as you were talking, so she might have other ideas, Tracey.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm sure that's part of it. But she showed me almost like the show horses, but not like dressage, but almost like the I'm trying to think what horses they are, where they really lift their legs up and she's really striding. And she's just shown me, maybe it's because she called her a princess, but she's shown me that she can move really well. And she's got nimble legs, as she says, she's got nimble legs. And there's a lightness. So if she hasn't got that now, there's a lightness. So she can move across the ground, but it's almost like her feet are hovering on the ground when she's doing this particular move. Is that a piaffe? Is that a piaffe that they call? I'm not really on dressage, so I don't know. But yeah, so as you were talking, she was showing me that. So
Well,
she might have ideas as well as you.
We'll see. Her mum was a show horse, so maybe that's more. Maybe she leans more towards her mum than her dad. Then.
So was he the jumper? Was
He's
the dad?
the jumper? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
If she does have other ideas, then I'll have to go back to the drawing board. But that's okay too. That's
she might be able to do both. If she might do both. So, what have you got planned for the future? So, regarding work, what have you got coming up? Have you got any new ventures that you're sort of progressing into, or?
So in January, I start doing practitioner training. So I've moved it. Practitioner training's always been traditionally a block of time, a block of 4, 5, 6 days, whatever the trainer wanted. And I've changed it to Monday afternoons because I found that people sort of wanted to learn it that way, have a week in between the sessions so they could go away and have a go, or go away and think about it, learn it, let it settle in, digest it. So that starts in January. So that's January the 10th that we start practitioner training. And I've also got, I've written a course, a business mindset course, which will be online. It's not necessarily equestrian. It's more aimed to people who've got small businesses and need to get rid of things like impostor syndrome and self-sabotage and those feelings of overwhelm, all those small business little niggles that, would be really helpful to get rid of. So that'll be online, and that's going out in January as well. So January will be really busy.
That's
that's something a little bit of a different direction for me, but I really enjoyed writing it. It's been loads of fun to write it, and as I've been writing it, I've been thinking, well, this is one that I need to do as well. So that's out in January.
So if you need any help or guidance, and Tracey, who do you go to? Do you go to your mentors? If you're looking for something like your clients do you tend to go back to your mentors?
I hope it doesn't sound too bad, but I'm
you don't need it.
Not that I don't need it, but I'm fairly balanced. But like everybody else, somebody asked me this morning, if you're this mindset coach and mindset trainer and all the rest, do you get the doubts, the nerves? Do you still get all of those little or big negative feelings? And I said, well, of course you do. Life is very, very unpredictable at times, or doesn't go the way that you thought it would go. I said, but what it gives you is a little bit more resilience, and you can bounce back a little bit more quickly. So if I do have something, because life happens, I tend to use the techniques on myself. So I sort of coach myself. I think to myself, well, come on, what is needed here? What's really underneath all of this? And I give myself a little pep talk, and then I do some of the techniques with myself. So that works. That seems to work for me anyway.
No, I can truly believe that looking at you, Tracey, because you just come across. So you maybe weren't always this way, but you come across confident in yourself, but you said something earlier, imposter syndrome. So I had that when I first used to do the communication, because I'm self-taught, and so I used to go out and practice on friends of friends' horses, and when I started to go out and started to charge, I found that really, really hard. I taking money was a block that I had to clear, which NLP and timeline therapy helped with that, and working on myself. But it's something you so it's not the way it used to be, and it's by any means, but you still have to keep a check on it because it sneaks back in sometimes. But I found that really, really hard. And then I also found it hard because I used to say, who'd want to listen to me? What right have I got to say this is what I do? And especially on Facebook, people would be asking, do you know of an animal communicator? And all these names will pop up, and one name would always, but I'd go, oh, that person is well known. They know about horses, the lovely person. But I used to think, oh God, please don't contact me. Don't put my name on. And I would continue to have this. And because I was focused on that, this name would always pop up then, because for me, I believe what shows you get back more of, because it's telling you something. And it took quite a while for that to go. And a friend who knows me and knows the other person, she used to say, "You're just as good. You're different. You bring something else. That person is good too, but they bring their skill. You bring yours." So she was really good to help sort of boost my confidence and help me work on myself as well. So I don't do that now. But it's lovely when people, when I see, when somebody asks him and my name comes up, and I don't comment, because I believe the person will go to who they're drawn to. So I don't sort of jump in, but I do notice it. And I every now and then I'll put something on Facebook saying, thank you for the recommendations. I do see. I'm very, very grateful. But I don't comment, because it's up to that person. And if they want something, they will go and look, as I do. If I'm really interested, I will Google it. And now, if something pops up on my phone, I don't even question it now. I know that's linked into me, because it's showing me that. I don't have to go through lots of things. That was the first thing, so I'm trusting that's the right one. So I'm not, but the imposter syndrome, when you said that, I thought, I had that big time, which I think a lot of people do.
Oh yeah,
A lot of
especially
people
at the
do.
start, don't you? Especially at the start, because like you say, whatever area you're going into, there'll be somebody who's well known in that area, and you feel really tiny compared to this. They're almost famous, aren't they? These people, they're certainly famous in that circle, and there's little old you.
And you compare, and you shouldn't, because you're not the same. It's different.
Yeah.
It's not better on, or it's not more or less. It's just, it's different.
Yeah.
And people will go to who they're attracted to, who they're drawn to. And that's a big thing. There can be 5 people that do something, could be 5 of you in a row, but the person will go to whoever they feel connected, and there's that invisible connection, because you're the one that's going to help them. Your energy is going to mix with theirs, and that's how I look at it. I don't see it that I don't see it as a negative if they don't come to me. I see they've got the right person. The same as you can have a conversation with a stranger over a coffee or at a bus stop, and they may get into a conversation with you, and you'll walk away and you'll feel better. And that energy of that person and you, there's just something changed. And it's about the unseen stuff sometimes. Because we tend to get hooked on what we visually see. Not so much now. I think that's changing a lot, because people are opening up to their intuition, the guidance, and like you said, it's the mind. We can change that. We just need to know, firstly, that we can do that, because people might not be aware of that, how to go about it and how to start. And it's that first step. You don't have to know all the big what ifs. It's that first little step that takes you on to the next part, and an amazing adventure of learning about who you are, which I love. I mean it. I love it as much as working with horses. I love having a relationship with me, which sounds a bit funny, but that I love that. And also, I was going to touch on. So sometimes people can have an issue or something's going on with them, and they can maybe see somebody like yourself, or they can chat to somebody like me, or somebody completely different, a healer, and then this will re-emerge later, and they'll think, well, that didn't work. And I explain it to people, it did work, but what happens is that was one layer, and there's another layer. It's not the same thing. It's something completely different, but it feels similar. And when you explain that to people, then sometimes they think, oh, okay. Because if they get into that, well, it didn't work, I'm not gonna try that. It might have been that the connection maybe wasn't quite right, or they weren't quite right, or they were quite ready. As much as they wanted it, something was saying no. Because you can say, I do want to change, but something in you says, no, you don't want to change. And that's sometimes hard to explain to people. How do you get around that?
Yeah, I absolutely the same as you, that when something reoccurs, very often they've actually, it's almost like a spiral, I think of it. Like, so we're going through life kind of learning more and more and spiraling around. So when you first encounter that problem, you're on a lower rung, if you like, but then when it comes back, you don't realize, or it's outside of your awareness, that actually you've done a lot of work on yourself and you've changed and the circumstances are different. And exactly what you said, it feels the same, but it's not, because you're at a new level. So you're experiencing it again, but you've actually kind of gone up a level. So when they're saying that it hasn't worked, and you said it might just be the timing was wrong, or the connection wasn't there, or there was some reason why they didn't, for whatever reason, lose that emotional baggage or whatever they were trying to clear. It can be a timing thing, and sometimes people hold on to their problems. And they can do this, again, not on purpose. It's not conscious at all. It's outside of their conscious awareness. But holding on to the problem because there's a reason behind it. And whether that's of more benefit for them to hold on to that problem at that time. And it can be very, I mean, we're talking quite kind of woo-woo kind of higher level stuff at the moment, but it could be something very, very down to earth, that there's, you know, that there could be that they almost get something out of having the problem. So whether that's a protection, a safety, you know, if I have this problem in my riding, so it stops me from getting on or stops me from doing what I think I should be doing, then I'm protected from it. I don't have to do it because I'm scared and it makes me feel bad, so I'll step back and I won't do it. So there might just be that kind of advantage. I mean, we all know the person on the livery yard who wears these problems like a badge of honor, and they're doing the same thing in some ways. They're getting the attention from their problem. So very often when I chat to people, if I recognize that in them, and it's very delicate to say you're holding on to the problem, or your mind is, I sometimes depersonalize and say, you know, your mind is holding on to the problem because there's some benefit of holding on to it at this time. Let's try and find out what that is, find out whether that is a protection thing or something else. What are you gaining from having the problem? You know, sometimes it's people are just so busy in their lives that they've got their home life, they've got family, they've got things going on at work, they've got this, that, and the other, and it's all very, very buzzy. So the riding has to go on the back burner for a little bit. So having that problem is kind of an advantage, because then they haven't also got to think about getting on the horse and riding the horse and schooling the horse and getting the horse competition ready and all the rest of it. It's just sort of like, oh, you know, that's one less thing off my list. So sometimes it's a chat about, can you see the advantage that your mind, and in a very clumsy way sometimes, is keeping you nervous or keeping you away from your riding, and just try and work through that a little bit.
I mean, sometimes it can be, so I'm going back to me because I can only sort of give my own experience. So for me, the block not getting onto toots was, it's about moving forward. So for me, I was wanting so desperately to move forward in my life, but at the same time, if I moved forward, so I wasn't always, I was aware, but not totally. If I move forward, then I'd have to change. Things would have to change. And where would the finances come with that? What would I do? Because I mean, I'm lucky in the respect that I'm on my own. So whatever decisions I make, if it goes that way or that way, it's down to me. I mean, it's always down to our own responsibility anyway, but it's not going to have a huge effect on anybody else. As long as Toots has what she needs, I would always say it doesn't matter that I go without. But actually now I change that, because actually, yeah, it does matter. But that was my motto in the past. So that kept me there. It doesn't matter that I do without. So I did go without, as a lot of people do. And so for me, it was moving forward. And it's funny that she would, I mean, she's quite often lame. Lame is a funny word. I mean, it's that long or it's that long. You know, there's no such thing as perfection the whole time.
Yeah.
There just isn't. But she would show me in her feet if I was really not pushing forward and I needed to push forward. And I'd be focusing on her and I'd be like, it's me. So yes, she would be lame, but it would be usually at the time when I needed to step into myself and take a step and stop hiding behind things. And so that was quite hard at times, because of the fear of lack of money, lack of this, lack of that, so doing a lot of work on myself with the help of some good friends, and really sort of really spending time looking at things. And then when things did change, that gave me it does work. It does work. But yeah, that was something that had lots of different layers. But it also was about protection. If I fell off, how would I earn money to work? Who'd look after me? Who'd look after my horse? I mean, you know, I've walked to my horse. It's taken me 3 hours to get there when I've had no car, because I need to get to her. And my friends picked me. You know, my friends would pick me up. But yeah, I have walked 3 hours to get to my horse because she was not going to be left. I needed to get there. So, like you say, it's always them that's more important, and they are very, very important. But we need to look after ourselves, because we need to be okay so we can support and help them and have a freer life emotionally. Even if you don't ride your horses, it's about having that freedom to know you can change things. Sorry, I went off on a bit of a tangent there.
No, I think you're entirely right. I think, yeah, that protection, if you like, and if you'd have gone out and, you know, ridden and all this face your fear stuff, which I don't like at all, then, you know, you would have been unhappy, but you also, like you say, you would have incurred lots and lots of costs, because you probably would have wanted to do this and do that, and maybe you needed more tack, and maybe, you know, some of the boots and bandages and goodness knows what have worn out. You need more of that. So in some ways it was very sensible of your mind, wasn't it, to bring that on.
Yeah.
As a
So it was doing it for the
pause
right
for you.
reasons
Yeah.
at the time. Yeah.
Best of intentions, perhaps not what you would want. This is why I sometimes say that, you know, the subconscious, the unconscious is quite clumsy in the way it delivers these things to us. Doesn't, you know, seem to be doing it with much finesse. But there is a reason behind it all, isn't there? And usually something that we can learn from, and learn quite a substantial amount from as well.
And you often find that the fear, the thought of something, when you actually do it, it's not the same as you expected. So I'm not talking about if you've got a dangerous horse, that if a horse rears and you've not sort of looked into it and you decide to get on it, that's a different thing altogether. But if you've done all the preparation and you know that your horse is okay, if we're talking about horses, if your horse is okay, the tack's okay, you know, everything's fine, and it's down to you taking that step. When you do, it's like, oh my God. And it can be the tiniest thing, and you can be so excited and almost like you've won the lottery, and you're telling other people and they're like, yeah, but it's your excitement because it's your obstacle that you've climbed. It's your Mount Everest, and it means that much because you've done it. And that's such a lovely feeling. And if we could harness that and remember that feeling, the next time we have doubts, and as you say, visualize that, bring that feeling with you, which is what I work with now. I have to feel it. So if I'm thinking about my future, if I'm thinking about something, the visualization is lovely, but without the feeling it as if you're actually there, it doesn't have the same impact. It's like watching a movie, but you want it. It's the difference with the feel is you're in the movie. That's what you're aiming for, to be in that movie, not just see it, feel it, and you're there. And when things happen, it's just lovely. It's just lovely.
It is, and it's like you say, it doesn't have to be that you're winning a championship, or, you know, you're doing something very high level. Sometimes it is, you've got on today, you know, or your horse stood still. You taught your horse to stand still, and today was the day that your horse stood still and you got on, and everything was nice and calm. It can be the tiniest thing. It can be leading your horse back into the field because the horse is usually very agitated for whatever reason. It could be doing a bit of groundwork and you're teaching your horse to turn on the forehand or something, and the horse is unsure what you mean, and you're not quite sure if you're giving the right signals, and then it comes, you know, you get a couple of steps that look beautiful. So I think it doesn't matter how you measure success, but those successes they're wonderful, aren't they? They're absolutely wonderful. And you do feel like you've won the lottery. In fact, it's better than that. It's priceless, isn't it? You know?
It is, because it's like I said, climbing Mount Everest. Do you give your clients exercises to do? So for anybody that's going to be listening, that's watching this or listening later, is there any little exercises that they could do to help them? So like I don't know, is it something that they have to write down, or a visualization, or a breathe? I mean, there's lots of breathing exercises, but is there something that you like to share?
Yeah, one of the easiest things that you can do is using peripheral vision. So what you do is you stare at a spot that's just above eye line, but you stare at it and you're blinking normally and naturally, and you're just very comfortable, and you're just looking at this spot and taking in lots of information. And this is just to give you an idea of the focused vision, when you really, really focused and honed in on a spot. And then you just relax your vision and you widen it, and you widen it again, and you keep going wider and wider. You're still looking at the spot and blinking very naturally, but the spot's becoming a bit more defocused because you're extending your vision outwards and outwards and outwards and outwards. And that's then gives you that full impression that you're in that peripheral vision. And if you can stretch your arms out, can't see me, but if you can stretch your arms out either side and you can sort of waft your fingers a little bit. Can't do it on. It's because I'm back to front.
I can see.
There we go.
We get them gist of it.
That then you're in that lovely wide vision. Then if you practice doing that, so you can get into wide vision, if you practice when you're doing, chores around the house or washing up or mucking out or, anything, walking along, so that you can instantly go into peripheral vision, and then try it on the horse. Try it just in halt, just when you get on for a few moments, and try it just walking around the arena, or if you're going down the lane on a hack. And at first you might only be able to go, 10 meters, 10 yards, and then you're out of it, and then try and get back into it again. And what it does, there's a really, really strange wiring of the brain that you can't be in any kind of negative state, or you can't think negative thoughts when you've got peripheral vision. So you'll notice if you do get nervous or anxious, or you have doubts or any other negative, your vision's probably going to be a little bit more narrow. Might not be fully narrow. When you get riders that stare at the horse's neck and they're nervous, they're in that very focused vision, which allows you to be as negative as you want. But if you can extend your vision out to peripheral, you can't hold those negative thoughts and negative emotions. So it's really nice to ride in, because it's a bit, it is a bit daydreamy. It is the kind of like vision when you're in a daydream. So it softens everything. And so the horse obviously responds to this, because you're completely different. Your body physically starts to relax, and your mind is starting to relax, but you're very alert to what's going on around you. It isn't that you are in this daydream. You know what's happening around you. So if you are going out down the lanes, you can see the pheasant that's about to jump out, or but you're relaxed. So rather than being on high alert thinking, oh my goodness, when is that pheasant going to jump out, and has my horse seen it, and is it going to squawk and all the rest, you know about it, but you're relaxed about it. Like, well, if it jumps out, it jumps out. I'm okay. I'll be fine. So it's a really nice way to ride. It just takes that practice, because we're not used to spending extended time in peripheral vision, but it is a lovely thing to do. And you could be doing your dressage, you could do flat work, you can do jumping, any style of riding. It's nice to be in that peripheral vision.
It's just something to practice. I was doing a little, because I remember you showed, you was kind enough to come on the community page, and you did a little live yourself, and you did an exercise, and that was one of the exercises. So I remember that, and I used to go out and practice. But today I was sat down at with Toots, and she was just going into the field. So I take a flask of tea, and it was just starting to get dark. So it was still daylight, but it was just starting to get dark. And I was just gazing at the tree, and that's the similar thing. And it was lovely, and it's almost like you say, almost like you're longingly at something, like a bird on a branch, and you're looking at it and you're thinking, how beautiful is that bird? But then your senses widen. And if you look at a horse when they're in a relaxed state, so they can be doing something, or if somebody's training them or teaching them something, and they've got that connection and they've been working, and the horses is focusing, but there's also and it's funny when I'm talking to a client, this is how I talk sometimes. I'm talking and that sense of other things coming in is very much like that peripheral, can't even say it.
Peripheral.
Yeah, the P vision. And it's that same sense, because I'm looking at you, but my senses are there, and that's what's coming in. So it's similar, but I quite often, for other reasons, gaze longingly at something. In a bit, sometimes it is a daydream actually, but hey ho, that doesn't matter. I'm not riding a horse or driving at the time, so that's okay. But yeah, it is lovely, but it's something you practice at. But I do it intuitively and instantly now, because that's how my mind works when I'm connecting with horses and people. It's been lovely chatting with you, Tracey. Really, really lovely, and it's so interesting. But it isn't just about horses, is it? So the work that you do doesn't just affect the person and the horse relationship. It has a bigger impact on people that they're with. It can impact on their work, their friendships, their relationships. It's not just one dynamics that it affects.
Yeah, we do put an immense amount of energy on this riding, don't we, and our horses. But like you say, sometimes people have come for sessions for horse riding and have mailed me later on and said, well, this has changed how I've gone into a meeting at work, and it's had all these spin-offs that, oh, well, I was able to go into the meeting and I was confident and I was using the techniques that you'd mentioned. And I love it when it happens like that, because it does have all these little ramifications. It's like this ripple effect. And the techniques aren't specific for equestrians. They're tailored a little bit, but you could go and then take them and use them in different parts of your life. So you can use them at work, you can use them in relationships or home life. And it very often that people do that, but also, like you say, if you have a session, sometimes something clicks in other parts of your life as well. Even though you have come to clear up a riding problem, that it just has this little knock-on effect with something else that just is a really lovely byproduct, really. And I think people are quite surprised by that, that they'll say, well, I'm a student and I've been able to study better, but how did that happen? Because I came to you about hacking down the lane. So it's very nice that all these associations get made, and you can sort out quite a lot using the NLP and using the sessions. It is really nice to see people getting on. And I suppose it's good value for money then, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Two for the price of one. Definitely. So it's been really, really nice chatting with you, and it's great to get to know a little bit about the person behind the NLP. Is there anything else that you'd like to chat about, or anything you'd like to mention before you go?
I don't think so. I mentioned my new training and new mindset course for business, and those are the big things that are happening.
So that's starting in January, isn't it?
They're starting in January.
Yeah.
So I think if anyone's got any questions, they could always contact me through you. You can always pass on my details.
Well, I'll put your details at the end of this, and I think I have already. So they can go straight to your page.
Yeah.
And I'll put it on the podcast as well. So anybody listening, they can go straight to. They can find out where to find you through the internet or Facebook.
Super.
So thank you very, very much for coming on, Tracey. It's been an absolute joy and a privilege to have you on.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, you're
I've had so much
welcome.
fun. It's been nice chatting to you, because we've not had an extended chat like this, have we?
No. So for people that don't know Tracey or myself, we met through Facebook, really, and through the internet. And I don't even know how it started. I think probably liking, commenting on some of your posts, but I've always felt there's been a mutual support, and it's been lovely, and it's behind the scenes, and it's just it's sort of grown. And then I did ask you to if you'd like to do something on the community page, and you you politely said yes, so you came on, which was lovely, and you did the exercise, the P vision. I still can't say the word.
Wide vision.
Yes,
Vision.
wide vision. So Anna, so it's really, really nice. So sometimes you meet people and you don't have to meet them in person, but there's, like you said, it's about connections, and regardless of what happens, it's just there's an affinity. And as we've talked, I can understand why now, because there's more similarities than I probably realised before, which is lovely. Which is probably similar to lots of areas of work, especially with horses. It crosses over. Lots of things cross over. So what I'll do is I'll just pop you into the back room,
Okay.
and then we can have a little chat, and I'll just say bye to everybody. If you'd like to say, just say bye to the viewers.
Yeah, thanks ever so much for listening and watching, and take care. Have a lovely Christmas.
Thank you, Tracey. I'll chat to you in a second. Right. Thank you, everybody that stopped by. And so if you want to message Tracey, you can do that through this post, or you can go direct to Tracey. I'll attach the website. I think I have already, but I'll do it again just to make sure. It was a real pleasure having her on, and she's a lovely lady, and she just oozes confidence and calmness, which is what you want at the end of the day. So have a lovely weekend. And I shall be chatting to you soon. Thank you for stopping on by. Thank you for your comments. And yeah, any questions, please feel free to ask myself or Tracey, and I'll make sure they get to the right destination. Take care. Thank you, and bye for now.